Amazing rescue. Discover the incredible fawn saved from a wolf pack by kind strangers in 12 hours. The phone call shattered Sarah's usual evening calm. A frantic neighbor's voice crackled over the line, panic threading every word. There's a fawn. It's lost. By the woods. There are wolves. The urgency clutched at her chest, igniting instincts buried under layers of exhaustion and self-doubt. As a nurse juggling night shifts and the daunting teenage rebellion of her daughter Lucy, she often felt like a juggler in a circus, with everything teetering on the edge. Could she really venture into danger when she was already wrestling her own fears? "I'll be right there," she replied, instincts honing in on the fawn's plight. The kind of compassion that drove her in the hospital surged again, a mixture of hope and dread. Yet, coming home to Lucy never failed to remind her of the dwindling connection between them, filled more with arguments than understanding. Each clash intensified her anxiety, making Sarah question her worth as a mother. Wasn't her daughter's need for independence a reflection of her own inadequacies? A gnawing sensation twisted her stomach. Would she simply be another disappointing chapter in Lucy's teenage story? The tension smothered her like the deepening dusk that filled the house. As Sarah peeled off her scrubs, Lucy leaned against the counter, arms crossed, her rebellion evident. "You don't have to save everything, Mom," she snapped, a tremor of defiance sharpening her tone. "You're not even here half the time." Sarah hesitated, her mind racing. It wasn't just the fawn at stake. This mission mirrored her unquenchable need to feel whole. "I'm trying," she whispered, unsure if Lucy could hear the desperation underlying her voice. She needed this to work, not just for the fawn but to prove to Lucy, and maybe herself, that she could do more than just cope. She could conquer. Before they gathered a handful of neighbors to take action, she felt another ripple of anxiety tugging at her heart. "Let's go rescue it together," she proposed, her voice trembling slightly. A shared purpose could be what they needed, a distraction from their aching rifts. Lucy rolled her eyes but grudgingly followed, fueling Sarah's resolve. As they stepped out into the night, she could feel the weight of unspoken grievances trailing behind them like shadows looming in the darkness. As they entered the woods, fear coiled tightly. The deeper they ventured, the more palpable the tension became. Anxious murmurs echoed from the neighbors, each haunted by their own worries. Would they find the fawn? What if the wolves attacked? The howls drifted through the trees and chilled the air. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As silence enveloped them, a chilling realization settled in. This fawn's fate didn't just matter. It reflected their struggles with vulnerability and need for protection. Just then, Lucy glanced at Sarah, and they locked eyes, a fleeting moment of understanding flickering between them. What would happen if they faced the wolves both outside and within? Fear radiated down Sarah's spine as the haunting howls grew closer, amplifying the uncertainty. This was more than a rescue mission. This would reveal their truths. Would they dare to stand together against the lurking shadows of their hearts just as the wolves drew near? The woods pressed in on them, shadows shifting between the trees, thickening with the scent of damp earth and something more primal. Sarah could feel Lucy's uncertainty, a restless energy emanating from her daughter. They moved forward, not just driven by the call of the fawn, but by an unspoken agreement, to navigate a conflict that had simmered for too long. With the chorus of howling circling them, Sarah squeezed Lucy's hand, a gesture seeking reassurance as much for herself as for her daughter. Meeting those eyes, she hoped to convey a sense of solidarity, a silent promise that they were in it together. But Lucy's expression was guarded, her mind perhaps as tangled as the branches above them. "Mom, I know you feel like you need to do this," Lucy spoke, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "But are you sure it's worth risking everything?" The words struck harder than the wolves' distant howls. That question mirrored Sarah's deepest fears. the acknowledgement that in saving the fawn, she was trying to save herself from a deeper abandonment, one that lingered in her home, in her relationship with Lucy. "What if it's not about risking everything?" she replied, forcing conviction into her voice. "What if it's about finding our strength?" But even as she spoke, doubt gripped her. Could this truly be the act that bridged the chasm between them? Or would it expose her inadequacies even further, leaving them both stranded and exposed? A sudden rustle nearby caused them to freeze. A small group emerged from the brush, eyes wide with fear, whispering amongst themselves about the encroaching wolves. The urgency within them ignited action, and the neighbors surged forward, spurred by adrenaline. It was chaos, but within that chaos, Sarah saw an opportunity. "We need to organize," she called out, her nurse instincts kicking in. "If we're going to save that fawn, we need a plan." Her voice cut through the din, momentarily grounding them. They gathered around, each person adding to the discussion of how best to approach the situation. With every suggestion, Sarah's confidence swelled, buoyed by a realization. Leadership was a strength she hadn't fully embraced before. It wasn't just about the fawn. This was her moment to assert herself, to reclaim the narrative that had often been dictated by fear. Lucy watched, a surprise glint igniting in her eyes. As Sarah organized the group, she felt a shift occur, not just in her role, but in how Lucy began to view her. The walls of teenage rebellion faltered slightly, the air thick with a burgeoning respect. Yet, it wasn't enough. Sarah needed to forge a bond that went beyond mere acknowledgement, a deeper connection that spoke to their unarticulated fears and desires. "Lucy," Sarah beckoned, motioning for her to step forward. "What do you think we should do?" Her daughter hesitated, glancing at the group surrounding them before locking onto her mother's encouraging gaze. "We need a lookout," she finally suggested, gaining strength from being both heard and necessary. "Someone to keep an eye out while we search." The suggestion ignited a spark in Sarah's chest, proof that Lucy could engage and contribute. "That's perfect. You're right. Let's assign you as the lookout. You can position yourself high." As the words settled, an unexpected pride washed over Sarah. This wasn't merely about rescuing the fawn, it was a chance to rebuild, leveraging their individual strengths to create something resilient. As they prepared to continue, the shadows around them lengthened, and the howls drew closer. The moment felt charged with potential, the risk of failure, the chance of success, and the palpable tension that both frightened and exhilarated her. Yet, behind the exhilaration lay a nagging worry. What lay beyond this rescue, in the discoveries they were yet to unveil? The woods felt alive, threatening but inviting. The wolves were closer now, and with every heartbeat Sarah understood they were racing against time, not just for the fawn, but for their own fractured relationship. Would they emerge from the woods renewed or further apart? The path ahead remained shrouded in uncertainty, but one truth crystallized. The moment to confront their failures was upon them. Would they find freedom in the hunt or succumb to their fears? In this revelation, they would discover whether they could face the wolves lurking both outside and within. The cacophony of howls pierced the air, each echo sending a shiver down Sarah's spine. As she surveyed the group they had gathered, a rush of adrenaline coursed through her. Each face once filled with fear, now mirrored her determination to forge a path through the treacherous terrain of both the woods and her tumultuous relationship with Lucy. It was a dual rescue, one for the fawn, and the other for the bond that felt precariously fragile. "Let's move!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the tension. With renewed purpose, she divided the responsibilities, pairing neighbors based on strengths. Those experienced in the woods would scout, while others would stay back and keep an eye on Lucy. Lucy had already ascended a low branch of a tree, her stature allowing her to see further. From this vantage, she seemed to embody resilience, a symbol of both hope and independence. "Stay alert. Call out if you see anything," Sarah instructed, her pulse steadying as she commanded their attention. There was an almost intoxicating thrill in the air, a tangible electricity that reminded her of moments in the ER when everything seemed to hang in the balance. But this time, it was more personal. It felt deeply connected to her role as a mother, the very essence of her identity. As they maneuvered deeper into the undergrowth, Sarah stole glances at Lucy. The initial hesitance had morphed into a flicker of responsibility, and Sarah longed to speak to her daughter, to articulate the pride swelling in her chest. But she hesitated. Was any dialogue possible amidst the roiling emotions and urgency? What if the choice of words only exacerbated the tension they yearned to dissolve? Before she could dwell, the group halted sharply as a rustle intensified nearby. Anxiety flooded the air, and Sarah's instincts blared. She motioned for silence, urging them to crouch low, peering intently into the thicket. Moments stretched, time hanging heavy with suspense. Then, without warning, a graceful fawn emerged, its doe-like eyes wide and vulnerable. The neurosis of reflex kicked in. Sarah's heart raced. It was undoubtedly injured. Shadows danced on its coat, indicating a prior encounter with predators. "It's the one!" Lucy called from her perch, her voice a mixture of exhilaration and concern, words cascading the tenuous connection that had sparked between them. "Yes, but we need to stay low and get closer. We can't frighten it," Sarah instructed, her tone softened by an undercurrent of excitement. To help the fawn was becoming more than just an objective. It was a vessel to mend what was splintered between her and Lucy. Methodically, they advanced, instincts intertwined with calculated care. As they neared, Sarah redirected her focus inward, confronting the fear that had followed her for years. Her shyness in asserting herself had often put distance between her and the people she loved, leaving them adrift in misunderstandings. Now, appealing to Lucy to contribute their emerging bond was critical. With a shared glance, they communicated more than words could express. There was an understanding that transcended their recent history of conflict, a budding recognition of their roles as protectors. "Remember when you helped me with that injured bird?" Lucy's voice wavered softly as she climbed down, confidence blooming. "We can do this together, Mom." In that moment, Sarah fully acknowledged the shift within her daughter. What had seemed like mere child's play was now wisdom forged through shared experience. The realization settled within her, a quiet acceptance that every small triumph would help mend their fractured relationship. Stepping forward, Sarah placed her hand on Lucy's shoulder, feeling the warmth, the urgency of a multitude of voices rising up around them. They moved as one unit, fluid and determined. Yet as they closed in on the fawn, the shadows deepened, and the chilling howls crescendoed, reminding them they weren't alone in the woods. The wolves would come soon. What remained unknown was how they would respond when darkness finally surrounded them. Would they find strength and unity before it was too late, or would the wolves of their past continue to howl, haunting them from a distance? The night air thickened, an imprint of the future loomed, shimmered just out of reach, collapsing once more into shadows. The moment stretched, heartbeats colliding with the wilderness sounds, a symphony of rustles and whispers enveloping Sarah and Lucy. The fawn, frail and trembling under the weight of its injuries, was a testament to vulnerability, a stark reminder of their own fractured relationship. As they neared, an impulse surged through Sarah. Protecting this creature felt like a shot of adrenaline that might bridge the chasm building between her and Lucy. "Okay, we need to make a plan," she whispered, focusing her gaze on Lucy, whose determination was unwavering. "You remember how to approach an injured animal?" "Yes, gently and calmly," Lucy replied, her voice steady. There was a knowledge there that Sarah had almost forgotten, buried beneath layers of worry and doubt. Lucy's innate understanding of compassion ignited something deep within Sarah. Perhaps resilience was not only about protection but also about being vulnerable. "I need you to lead this," Sarah affirmed, a surprising confidence warming her voice. "We're not just rescuing a fawn, we're showing it trust, just like how we need to rebuild ours." Lucy nodded, stepping forward with deliberation. The careful way she moved mirrored the cautious tenderness they both needed to embrace. Sarah's chest tightened. Was she truly ready to relinquish control? The fear of failure nudged at her, yet alongside it was an exhilarating awareness of what this collaboration could mean. The two closed in on the fawn. Lucy knelt low, reaching out slowly, fingers poised like delicate feet stepping into a dance. Sarah felt a pulse of pride. Perhaps this encounter could be transformative not just for the fawn, but for them. It was a reminder that vulnerability could blossom strength if nurtured together. With caution, Lucy extended her hand. Sarah watched as the fawn flinched but then softened, sensing the gentle intention behind it. In this moment, it occurred to Sarah that they were performing a small miracle fueled by hope, a stark contrast to the chaos of emotions that had often surrounded them. The essence of motherhood was not always in command. It was also in surrender, in allowing her daughter to take the lead. "To think just a few days ago we were at odds," Sarah murmured, the realization sweeping over her like the crisp night air. The fawn's wounded spirit echoed their own struggles, both battling the weight of their past. "Can you feel it, Mom?" Lucy asked softly, gazing at the fawn with an expression that pierced through Sarah's heart. "We're doing this together." "Yes, we are," Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper, steeped in a newfound vulnerability that took root alongside her pride. The words felt profound as they settled, igniting the spark of her personal transformation. She had sought to protect, to shield, but now she understood. Healing requires bravery and connection. With careful movements, Lucy coaxed the fawn closer. It seemed willing now, drawn by her calm presence as if already sensing that help was near. The howls in the distance became a haunting backdrop, reminding them of the urgency they faced. Yet, there was solace in the strength they drew from one another. "We'll get it to safety, I promise," Lucy whispered, a pledge wrapped in sincerity that carried a weight of responsibility. Sarah felt something shift within, a dawning awareness of what it truly meant to embrace both fear and trust. Each step forward was a deliberate defiance against the howls that threatened to engulf them, a powerful juxtaposition of inner turmoil and external calm. The harsh cries of wolves were now a challenge, not a shroud, yet fear loomed just beyond their reach. Would they succeed in rescuing the fawn before the wolves closed in? Could they pull together in the thickening darkness, or would past conflicts fracture them anew when confronted with imminent danger? As the night deepened, Sarah and Lucy pressed on, their senses alight. What awaited them in the shadows felt palpably alive, a confrontation brewing that was much larger than a simple rescue. The unexpected adventure was about to take a turn. The wolves were stirring, and so were the truths that lay dormant between mother and daughter. They were not just battling for the fawn's life. They were standing on the brink of their healing journey, ready or not. As they approached the fawn, Sarah's thoughts raced. They were no longer just trying to rescue an animal. They were navigating the intricate landscape of their relationship. Each step they took resonated with both hope and fear, not just for the fawn, but for the fragile bridge they were trying to build between them. "Just breathe, Mom," Lucy said calmly, her voice a tether to the present. It struck Sarah as odd that her daughter, the one she had often worried about dealing with her own anxieties, was now the voice of reason. This reversal stung with its irony, but also filled Sarah with newfound resolve. The fawn continued to tremble, its breath shallow and apprehensive. "What if it doesn't trust us?" Sarah mused aloud. The uncertainty felt all too familiar. Could they really expect a wounded creature to embrace help from two individuals, still grappling with their own vulnerabilities? "Let me try," Lucy said, her determination glowing even in the dim light. Sarah watched as Lucy bent lower, humbling herself before the creature. "You see, it's okay when you're gentle," she whispered, a quiet confidence infusing her words. As Lucy became the embodiment of calm, Sarah felt a flicker of pride, a flicker that nudged at her to confront her own fears about vulnerability. Maybe this is how we heal, Sarah thought, an epiphany washing over her. If they could approach the fawn with light and gentleness, so too could they approach their own tumultuous emotions. The warmth and tension in the air mingled, creating a bittersweet reminder that healing could come from leaning into discomfort rather than avoiding it. As her daughter inched closer, Sarah noticed how the fawn began to respond. Its muscles relaxed, and curiosity edged out fear. Was this the trust they sought to cultivate in themselves? Was trusting each other the key to bridging the emotional chasm that had widened between them? Suddenly a howl echoed in the distance, sharp and definitive, shattering the fragile peace they had found. Something primal roared to life in Sarah, a visceral need to protect her daughter, almost overshadowing the fawn's plight. "We have to hurry," she urged, her heart racing. "Let's just keep moving. We have to get it out of here," Lucy replied, determination etched into her features. They devised a quick plan, using Lucy's expertise in handling animals, while Sarah envisioned a safe path through the underbrush. As they worked together, Sarah felt her own fear dissipate, replaced with the electricity of working in unison, their own fears melting into purpose. They managed to lift the fawn, careful not to aggravate its injuries, and began to navigate back through the darkness. Sarah felt a strange mix of exhilaration and vulnerability, as if she was stepping into a new version of herself, one that wasn't afraid to lean on her daughter, to admit the necessity of collaboration. With the howls drawing nearer, a new understanding settled over Sarah. Confrontation was an essential path for both the fawn and herself to find safety. Each howl was a reminder that life, in its rawness, demanded readiness to face pain head-on in order to emerge whole. The looming shadows were no longer threats. They were lessons waiting to unfold. As they approached the edge of the woods, Sarah's heart surged. Would they emerge victorious, outpacing the danger lurking behind them? The bond they had forged in the fire of vulnerability ignited a fierce hope. Maybe their fractured relationship, like the fawn, could mend into something stronger if they were willing to embrace the uncertainties of this wild journey together. But as they neared the clearing, a pair of eyes glared from the thicket, glittering and predatory. The wolves were closer than they had anticipated, their raw power a stark reminder of the stakes involved. In that moment, Sarah realized they weren't just fighting for the fawn's life. They were fighting for their own future as mother and daughter, entwined in a dance as ancient as time itself. The confrontation loomed larger than she had ever prepared for, and the void between them now felt perilously thin. With the wolves in pursuit, could they reach safety before the darkness swallowed them whole? Or would the echoes of their past come rushing back, threatening to shatter all they had just begun to build? As they surged into the clearing, the silhouette of the distant hills seemed to breathe a sigh of relief against the dusk. Yet, with each step, Sarah could feel the weight of their precarious situation draw tighter around her chest. The fawn's slight whimpering blended with the distant howls, each sound a reminder of an urgency she hadn't expected. "Just keep going, Mom," Lucy urged, her grip tightening around the fawn as she maneuvered it against her side. Sarah nodded, caught between admiration for her daughter's bravery and a growing panic that threatened to choke her resolve. They needed to stay focused, but not only on the path ahead. They had to maintain a sense of connection. "Lucy, let's talk about what we'll do once we get to the help," Sarah suggested, forcing her voice to remain steady. "We'll find a vet and they can fix it. They always do, right?" Lucy's voice trembled ever so slightly, revealing the flicker of uncertainty buried beneath her surface confidence. "Right," Sarah affirmed, but as she spoke, doubt prickled at her thoughts. Did she even believe they could make it in time? "But we have to make it out of here first." They moved quickly, navigating through the growing darkness. Each whisper of the breeze brought with it traces of doubt, memories flickering like fireflies in her mind. Would they really heal the fractures in their relationship? Could a single act of kindness, the rescue of an innocent creature, be the catalyst for a deeper understanding between them? Another howl echoed, sending a shiver through them both, driving them forward with alarming urgency. Sarah realized she projected her own fears onto Lucy, wanting to shield her from the fallout of their shared past. But in sheltering her daughter, was she robbing Lucy of the growth that came through facing adversity? "Mom, we can't stop." Lucy's voice snapped her back to the moment, a reminder that their actions, every choice they made together, were pivotal not only for the fawn, but also for them. Each decision, each move they made, was an exercise in trust, a lesson in communicating without words, showing faith in one another. Sarah took a deep breath and allowed herself to fully witness Lucy's determination. "You're right," she said, quickening her pace. "We can do this together." The realization that they were stronger as a team ignited the embers of her resolve, and she relished this new landscape of possibility unfolding before them. As they neared the edge of the woods, the landscape morphed into an open field illuminated by the soft glow of the moon. For the first time in what felt like ages, Sarah felt a flicker of optimism pulse through her. Watching the fawn's eyes, wide with a mix of fear and trust, reminded her of Lucy's own journey, one navigated with vulnerability, where fear transformed into courage. But just as they thought they might slip into safety, the shadows shifted. The monstrous figures of the wolves emerged from the tree line, their eyes glinting with cunning intelligence. They were silhouetted against the silver moon, embodying the looming threats of her past and present all at once. Panic recoiled in Sarah's stomach, but it was no match for the wild surge of purpose that propelled her forward. "Lucy, run!" she shouted instinctively, pushing her daughter ahead. In that moment, she understood that protecting the fawn was intertwined with safeguarding their relationship. She was not just saving an animal, she was either shielding their foundation or risking it entirely. Yet as Sarah glanced back, Lucy halted, her eyes fierce. "I'm not leaving you, Mom. We stick together." A greater depth of fear spread within Sarah, but she knew that standing firm together was the only way forward. The decision suddenly loomed. Could she elevate her perception of strength to embrace vulnerability alongside her daughter? Or would self-preservation drown out the lifeline of their shared courage? The wolves advanced as they huddled closer to the fawn, steeped in the knowledge that this was a pivotal moment. Could they outsmart the danger together? Would the wolves become an emblem of their past, or could they transform this challenge into a profound leap of faith for their future? As the wolves prowled, every instinct urged her to fight or flee. The moment had arrived, and Sarah had to choose whether to step into the fear or back away from the challenge. Would she embrace this chance to redefine their relationship amid chaos? Or would she allow the shadows to win? The wolves circled them, a menacing whisper of fur and fangs that was both a reminder of their frailty and a catalyst for strength. Sarah felt Lucy press against her, fear in her eyes, but determination painted across her face. A fierce protectiveness surged within Sarah, deeper than the terror that gripped her heart. This was no ordinary moment. It was a reckoning. "Stay close. We can't let them separate us," Sarah instructed, her voice barely a whisper above the rustle of grass and the sharp, low growls of the advancing wolves. Each syllable was tempered with the urgency of fear, but also with an emerging clarity. They wouldn't just survive this moment, they would fight through it. Her instincts kicked in as she scanned their surroundings, seeking any advantage. To the right was a thick bramble, to the left, an uneven slope leading back into the woods. It was clear they had to plan their escape. She turned toward Lucy, whose grip had tightened on the fawn, protective yet burdened. "Luke, we need to create a distraction. Can you throw a rock or something?" But Lucy's eyes were locked on the wolves, uncertainty clouding her mind. For all her bravado, this was a test of her resolve. I can't," she stuttered, her voice catching. "You can," Sarah insisted, her tone firm yet gently coaxing. "Remember when we threw the ball together? Focus on that strength. We're in this together, and I believe in you." Lucy looked at her mother, a flicker of trust crossing her features. Maybe it was the urgency of their situation, or perhaps the unspoken promise of their bond. But Sarah sensed a shift. Lucy nodded, her eyes clearing as determination seized her again. With her daughter preparing to act, Sarah stepped forward, her heart racing, but her mind steadied by purpose. She stood between the wolves and the precious lives they were defending, her body a barrier against the encroaching shadows. Time slowed as she felt the weight of the situation settle heavily upon her shoulders, yet simultaneously, it became liberating. For once, she did not have to shoulder the burden of all their fears alone. In the act of facing potential devastation, she found an expansive glimmer of resolve, not just to protect Lucy and the fawn, but to acknowledge her own capacity for bravery. Lucy had picked up a small stone, her hands trembling but her gaze fierce. "On my count," she whispered. Sarah met her gaze, watching as Lucy's body tensed, coiled for action. The moment was theirs to seize or lose. 3, 2, 1, go! As Lucy threw the rock toward the nearest tree, the sudden sound startled the wolves. They turned briefly, a wavering of their predatory advance. It was enough for Sarah to focus on the next move. She motioned for Lucy to retreat slowly, keeping close to the fawn, both of them moving back inch by inch. Their shared determination pulsed between them, a fragile strength woven through years of miscommunication and unspoken fears. Each step away from the wolves propelled them toward something far greater. A new understanding. They could turn their fear into strength, and this night would not define them. It would transform the very fabric of their relationship. They were no longer just a mother and daughter facing a chaotic storm. They were a team, one that had confronted danger together, side by side. Ahead, the slope beckoned, urging them toward the safety of the woods once more. But just as they turned, they caught the glint of moonlight dancing in the eyes of the wolves again. Hope, however, surged within Sarah. They had outsmarted the beasts, if only for a moment. And in that moment she felt empowered, ready to face whatever came next. As they scrambled toward the shelter of the trees, Sarah felt her pulse quicken, not just from the adrenaline, but from the dawning realization that this experience held the power to reshape everything. With each step they took together, the shadows behind them dimmed and the path ahead illuminated with newfound potential. Yet, as the night deepened, Sarah knew the true test lay ahead. They had earned a fleeting victory, but they were still far from safety. The wolves were relentless. How could they ensure their escape? The complexity of their journey loomed large in her mind, and the uncertainty prickled at the back of her consciousness. "Mom, what if they come back?" Lucy's question sliced through the air, raw and immediate. Sarah stopped in her tracks, the implications of the question sinking in. "Then we'll face them together," she replied, each word heavier than the last. But what lay ahead was not just a battle against wolves. It was a confrontation with all the fears she had buried deep within herself. With their hearts racing and the call of the wild echoing behind them, the two took a step into the unknown ahead. Would they run toward safety, or would they confront the very essence of what bound them together? Love challenged by fear. As they pressed on, Sarah felt one undeniable truth rising within. The path of transformation demanded courage. In that moment she vowed to embrace it, for both their sakes. The wolves weren't just pursuing them. They were pushing Sarah to confront her deepest vulnerabilities. The questions echoed in her mind. When would the past fully release its grasp on them? Would this night mark a turning point, or would their journey deepen the cracks that threatened to separate them? The dense underbrush swallowed their movements as Sarah and Lucy plunged deeper into the woods, the sounds of growling wolves fading behind them. Yet the pulse of danger vibrated in the air, an invisible thread tethering them to the chaos they left behind. Each rustle of leaves sent waves of anxiety coursing through Sarah. She could almost feel the weight of the predators looming over their shoulders, waiting for an opportunity to pounce. "Mom, what if they find us?" Lucy's voice trembled, cracking the facade of bravery they had built. "We've made it this far, Lucy," Sarah replied, forcing a calmness into her tone as they ducked beneath a low-hanging branch. She dismissed her daughter's fear, but inside, the entanglement of her own doubts festered. What if they had acted too recklessly? What if the wolves didn't lose interest as easily as they hoped? They stumbled upon a small clearing, moonlight filtering through the trees, drenching the ground in silvery light. It felt eerily peaceful, contrasting starkly with the storm of adrenaline still thrumming in Sarah's veins. Here, they could catch their breath, regroup and devise a plan. The calmness was inviting, but also unnerving. Their success in outmaneuvering the wolves brought a mix of relief and uncertainty. Shelter, but at what cost? Sarah? The sound of Lucy's whisper pulled her from her thoughts. The way Lucy had said her name felt different now, pensive yet filled with a burgeoning understanding. "Yeah?" Sarah turned to face her daughter, who looked uncharacteristically serious. "I think we should go back. Maybe we can help the others." Her voice wavered, and Sarah saw the internal struggle reflected in her eyes. "Help the others? What do you mean?" "I don't know. The Fawn. What if it needs us? We can't just leave it." Lucy's feelings surged into the open, mixing their realities with the fight for survival. Fear swirled within Sarah, competing against pride and her daughter's courage. They could turn back, but the risk was suffocating. "Lucy, I understand how you feel, but returning puts us in danger too. The wolves, they could still be nearby." But it was scared. "I couldn't just let it be out there alone," Lucy pleaded, her face earnest. In that moment, Sarah confronted a revelation. It wasn't just about the wolves or their own safety, it was about the value she needed to instill in Lucy, the importance of empathy, compassion, and yes, bravery in the face of fear. Could she truly teach that while retreating to safety? Okay, Sarah said, surprising even herself. We'll go back, but with a plan. We need to be smart about this. If we're going to help that fawn, we must assess the situation first. As they began retracing their steps, Sarah's mind entered a new phase of focus. Leadership wasn't merely about instinctual decisions, it was about teaching Lucy to think strategically under pressure. The night wrapped around them like a shroud as they moved forward with every ounce of caution. "Mom, what if we use the night as our ally?" Lucy suggested, a flicker of inspiration igniting her spirit. "Wolves see well in the dark, but we can use the shadows to confuse them." Sarah nodded, impressed. A smile crept into her heart as her daughter grew into a partner in this chaotic world. "Exactly. We'll stick to the trees, stay low, and any time we see a wolf, we'll create a diversion. Remember how we practiced being quiet in the forest? Now it's time to call on that skill." As they crept silently, each step felt synchronized, and newfound resolve hummed between them. They were not just mother and daughter. They were allies, honing their abilities as they prepped for what lay ahead. Finally, as they neared the scene of their earlier encounter, Sarah felt both terror and exhilaration meld within her. Each moment stepped more firmly into a new reality, one where they were resilient enough to face their fears rather than be defined by them. And yet, lurking in the shadows of her mind were deeper questions that niggled at her resolve. What if they encountered not just wolves, but their own doubts? One misstep could unravel everything they'd fought to build. Then a low growl echoed through the night, startling them both. It was a reminder that their journey through the fearsome darkness of the woods had just begun. "Mom, what if we don't make it back?" Lucy's voice wavered, a thin thread of vulnerability unraveling amidst their resolve. "We will make it back, Lucy," Sarah reassured her, even as tension coiled in her stomach. But a sense of urgency loomed large, and the night breathed challenge into their every step. In that moment, she understood. To emerge transformed, they must first confront the raw, untamed world waiting for them. Holding tightly to Lucy, Sarah prepared to shape their destiny. The wolves were out there, but tonight, they would also learn to navigate the labyrinth of their own hearts. As they moved closer to the danger, one truth echoed in Sarah's mind. Sometimes, courage demands taking a step back to unleash the strength to move forward. Just then, a rustle in the bushes confirmed her worst fear. Behind the ominous sound lay a decision that would test everything they had learned: fight, escape, or embrace the unexpected yet vital vulnerability that came with hope. What lay ahead would challenge not just their survival, but the essence of who they were becoming. The growl crescendoed, reverberating through the silence like an unsettled echo of reality. Sarah's breath hitched as instinct propelled her forward. They were too exposed. The chaos of their recent flight seemed irrelevant now, reduced to the pressing need for survival. Her heart raced. She had to think clearly. "Let's move," she whispered, her voice a tight thread of command, laced with urgency. Lucy nodded, her youthful resolve momentarily overshadowing her earlier fear. They darted behind the nearest tree, pressing their backs against the rough bark as the murmur of the forest shifted ominously. The tranquility of the clearing was gone, replaced with the palpable electricity of danger. "Stay low," Sarah instructed, and they crouched, eyes wide, scanning the dimly lit trail. Her mind whirled, assessing the threat. They had to navigate their environment cleverly. Every rustling branch or snapping twig might be the difference between safety and exposure. Out of the corner of her eye she caught a movement, a shadow darting among the underbrush. Sarah felt her adrenaline surge. It was time to act. A flash of instinct sent her hand rummaging through her pack. What was still there? Their small stash of nuts? Empty. A rolled blanket? Inaccessible. But there, newly remembered, was the whistle she kept for emergencies. It was time to divert their attention. "Lucy, when I blow this, I need you to run toward that gnarled tree," Sarah indicated quietly, pointing to a twisted oak silhouetted against the starry sky. "Try to hide behind it. I'll create a distraction." "Mom, what if—" "Trust me," Sarah interrupted, her voice steady. It was an unyielding truth she needed to communicate to her daughter. They had prepared for these moments, both facing the unknown together, emboldened by their bond. With a deep breath, Sarah gripped the whistle tight. The piercing sound cut through the night, sharp and unyielding. The echoing call of challenge seemed to linger, igniting a competitive spark in her. The wolves, drawn by the noise, shifted direction. She felt their predatory gaze slipping from her and Lucy, but terror clung to her. "Now!" she urged, and they began to sprint through the underbrush, hearts pounding in time with their footsteps. Every step sent adrenaline coursing through Sarah, shaping her resolve. This was no longer just about survival, it was about guiding Lucy through confrontation, instilling leadership that demanded action. When they reached the twisted oak, Sarah quickly scanned their new position. As Lucy crouched behind the tree, panting heavily, Sarah's gaze pierced through the darkness in search of the fawn. It needed their ingenuity, and they could not let fear immobilize them. "Look for tracks or signs of where it might be," she instructed, shifting into a mode of strategic observation. She crouched near the base of the tree and frowned at the imprint left in damp earth nearby. Heavy paw prints, a mixture of worry and determination brewed in her stomach as her instincts leaped alive. "Mom, do you think it's this way?" Lucy pointed ahead, her voice steady now, transformed by fire. "Yes," Sarah agreed, her heart swelling with pride in her daughter's burgeoning confidence. "We'll follow the scent trail, but we need to be quiet." As they moved cautiously, the sounds of the forest, an owl's distant hoot and a bubbling brook nearby, became allies in their stealth. Together, they delved deeper into the unknown, burgeoning trust entwining their hearts. Just then another growl, a warning low and menacing, reverberated through the thick air. It was closer this time, an omen of what they faced if they didn't succeed. They stopped, eyes flitting around them, searching for the source of the threat. But Sarah felt something stir within her again. This was not just about physical survival, it was an inner evolution. The forest forced her to face her demons, the motherly fears of loss mingling with the fierce desire to protect and instill values in Lucy. They were entrenched in a test of character and resilience, every whisper of danger a formative moment. "Whatever happens, we'll figure it out together," Sarah declared, grounding herself through determination. Suddenly a flash of movement caught her eye. There, among the thicket, was a small trembling form. The fawn. Before they could celebrate, another growl, this time despite their stealth, right behind them. "Run!" Sarah shouted, firm resolve crystallizing her voice. They had found the fawn, but time was slipping away, and with it, their fragile plan. They sprinted toward the fawn, but instinct warned her of an imminent confrontation. It was time to confront not just the wolves, but all that she had become during their harrowing journey. Adrenaline ignited her focus, and she felt the urgency of what lay ahead. As they reached for the frightened creature, the chilling growl echoed louder, announcing the fierce challenge awaiting them. They would have to confront more than just predators in the night. What lay ahead required a new level of courage and insight, a true defining moment for both their souls. With heart racing and pulse quickening, Sarah prepared to face the dark wolves ahead, not just to defend themselves, but to secure their future and each other's formidable spirits. Would they emerge whole, or would this night end in shadows? With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah and Lucy barreled toward the fawn, their hearts pounding in unison. The urgency of the moment made every second count. They were not merely rescuing a helpless creature. They were reclaiming their strengths and confronting past fears. The fawn, skittish but hopeful, barely registered the escape route they were carving through the night. "Grab it gently, Lucy," Sarah urged, her pulse racing as the growl echoed menacingly from behind them. They could sense the wolves drawing closer, their presence an ominous shadow threading through the underbrush. Harnessing her desperation, Sarah's instincts kicked in. There was no room for doubt now. As Lucy reached out to the fawn, grounding her emotions, Sarah remained vigilant. "We'll need to move fast, but stay quiet." They'd taken the necessary risks, faced their fears together, yet they now stood on the precipice of a pivotal moment that required more than just courage. It needed a plan. "Let's head toward the creek," Lucy said, raising her voice just above a whisper. "The water will mask our scent." It struck Sarah how far her daughter had come. What had started as a night filled with uncertainty was now morphing into a partnership steeped in shared resilience. "Great thinking," Sarah responded, pulling Lucy into a quick embrace. It was a rare moment of connection, reinforcing their unity amid the presence of danger. They pivoted, the fawn nestled securely against Lucy's small frame, as they darted toward the sound of rushing water ahead. The shadows lingered, stalking their every move. But fear could not eclipse their burgeoning resolve. As they neared the creek, Sarah's mind flickered back to their tumultuous past. Each argument, each misunderstanding seemed to dissipate in the face of this new challenge. They were chasing not just survival, but the opportunity to reshape their relationship, one brave step at a time. The water splashed against the banks as they ducked into the cover of the trailing foliage. The fawn trembled, but seemed calmed by Lucy's steady presence. For the first time, a sense of purpose washed over them both. They were tackling more than mere physical adversities. As they crouched there in the dim light, panting with exertion, Lucy turned to Sarah, her eyes alive with understanding. "Mom, we're stronger together." It was her revelation that illuminated the dam of emotions between them. It wasn't merely about saving the fawn, it was about healing their fractured relationship. "Yes," Sarah replied, her voice imbued with a firm clarity. "We've learned that by lifting each other up we can face even the fiercest storms." The realization settled deeply within her. This night had mirrored their journey as mother and daughter, fraught with danger yet ripe with opportunity for healing. Suddenly the rustle of leaves pricked their concentration. The wolves had not left their pursuit in vain. They'd seen movement and would not relent. "We have to keep moving, but stay low," Sarah affirmed, adrenaline mingling with resolve. Together, they crept alongside the creek, navigating the uneven terrain until they reached a thicket brimming with dense underbrush. "This should hide us," Lucy suggested, catching her breath while gripping the fawn tightly. "Here we can make a stand. If they come, we'll protect it," Sarah declared, the weight of responsibility solidifying her stance. Embracing the role of protector felt different this time. It was no longer one born of fear, but of deep-rooted love and commitment. As they huddled within the thicket, shadows beckoned ominously at the periphery of their vision. The cold night air tingled against their skin, every heartbeat echoing louder in the silence. But among the fear, they shared a profound moment rooted in bravery and vulnerability, affirmations that extended far beyond the immediate challenges. "I believe in us, Lucy," Sarah stated, locking eyes with her daughter. "Tonight, we embrace whoever we need to be. No more fear." But just then, the dark figures flickered into view. The wolves prowled at the edge of the clearing, their movements fluid and predatory. It was a direct confrontation of all they had faced together, yet Sarah felt an unexpected sense of strength pulsating through her veins. "On three we move again. Distract them," Sarah commanded, steeling her resolve. The urge to protect surged forward, rooted in their shared journey of overcoming and rediscovery. "Got it!" Lucy nodded fiercely, her energy crackling with determination. 1, 2, 3. Every ounce of the courage they had built ignited as they launched forward, one tackling toward the left and the other fading back through the thicket. The wolves followed instinctually, drawn to the motion and chaos, allowing Sarah a moment to shield Lucy and the fawn. They darted, narrowly escaping the snapping jaws but moving with purpose toward safety. The dawning realization that threat did not define them, but became a part of their narrative, a lesson of resilience. "Keep going," Sarah shouted, guiding Lucy toward the trees beyond the clearing. They raced onward, the fawn cradled securely as they plunged into the dense foliage. Together, their rhythm melded. They were no longer just mother and daughter, but a fierce alliance ready to confront the unknown. The howl of the wolves faded into the distance, replaced instead by the sound of a heartbeat, one of survival, healing, and transformation. As they sunk deeper into the woods, Sarah recognized how intricately woven this experience was. The depths of fear transformed into strength, vulnerability blossomed into trust, and bravery unraveled into a bond that would define them forever. Finally, they reached a small rise, a clearing draped in moonlight that felt like their sanctuary. As they collapsed, breathless and smiling amidst the soft glow of the fresh dawn ahead, Sarah absorbed the profound sense of achievement. It wasn't just the fawn they had saved, but their connection, their growth. This was the shift they needed to ascend past past grievances. As Sarah rested her forearm against the tree, glancing at Lucy, she could finally see the myriad possibilities ahead. The bridge of understanding built upon moments fraught with danger, yet illuminated by courage. Beneath the expansive sky, they had conquered night's shadows, now standing intimately entwined with hope. "Yes, we did it," Sarah whispered, infusing her voice with undeniable pride. Not just for what they had achieved for the fawn, but for what they had come to embody together. Two hearts, converging and thriving amid the wild. As they basked in their shared triumph, it was clear vulnerability had transformed into solid, unshakable strength, their aspirations now forged anew in the face of adversity. In the echoes of the night, they had discovered something incredibly profound. They had emerged as conquerors, rising with solid confidence into the light of a new day, ready to embrace whatever came next. This was their journey, marked not just by survival, but by true transformation. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It really makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.